What's going on YouTube? H-Dub here, and you know we playing Raid. Today I am joined by Hell Hades, OG Hell Hades. You guys know him, and we're going to be talking about some accessible options for you all for Live Arena. Live Arena's been jumping off for just under a week now, and I'm sure a lot of people are just trying to, figure out, get their feet wet and see what works for them. But Hell Hades has been doing the free-to-play challenge. I felt like it was appropriate for us to discuss with a guy who is focusing on, this area with an accessible, approach. So, just Hell Hades, how you doing today, man? Welcome. Thank you, of course, for coming to the channel. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm excited for this because I've got to say, when I first saw Live Arena, I was thinking this isn't going to be something that the free-to-play really gets involved in.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't do it for like the first 2 or 3 days. I was like, just no point in me going into it.
Mm-hmm.
Then I gave it a try, and I actually found that my win rate was much higher than I thought it was going to be, just through sensible picks and sensible kind of setup. So it's definitely more accessible, I think, for a free-to-play team than people perhaps would give it credit for.
Yeah, definitely. So you know, you've been doing the free to play now. You guys started out in January. We're just around 4 months in for you guys on the free to play, right? So, who would you say is like the strongest nuker for you on the free to play?
Yeah. So interestingly, like on the free-to-play, so I got Ronda as a login champ, and
Right.
I got my starter champs. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
both both Ronda and the starter champs, they both do decent damage. And I've had interesting options along the way. So I've also had Gembo as the kind of Amazon Prime login champion,
Mm-hmm.
who's a
Mm-hmm.
great nuker, and a lot of people would have Gembo. Um, so he's a really good option. And I've also got Skull Crown, who I've picked up along the way through Shard. So I've really got four pretty viable nuker options. But because it's a free to play, and because I tend to focus Clan Boss before Arena on a new account, I've kind of already had Ronda built out, already had El Hain built out. So my Skull Crown and Gembo are not 60s right now. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually they will be, and they'll start to become part of teams. But for me, I use El Hain and Ronda as my two kind of like people that are built for damage and built for arena gameplay.
Nice. Yeah, and the starter champions are very underappreciated. People, obviously they feel like they can use them up to a certain point, but I don't think they really consider how decent the multipliers actually are on
Yeah.
these champions, and they're comparable with a lot of the epics. Obviously, not all of the legendaries, but they have really good multipliers. Elhain is actually one of my favorites as a starter. She has, the highest base attack. She has the highest base speed as well. So you build her with some decent damage. She has multi-hit abilities, which are very strong, right? When you talk
Yeah.
about, someone who has a versatile kit, she can do single target for you. She can do AoE for you. This is definitely a champion that are going to be one to invest in the early game for Live Arena
Well,
and Arena.
and interesting as well, like I see a ton, and I mean like an absolute ton of Ultimate Death Knights
Mm-hmm.
in Arena generally, but definitely in Live Arena as well. And El Hain actually deals with Ultimate Death Knight pretty well. Everything she's doing is like AoE hits, or even if she's not doing AoEs, it's a double hit. So, Ultimate Death Knight's only tanking up the first part of that hit. You can still, knock people down, or you can take him down pretty well generally anyway. But yeah, she's actually a really good kind of anti Ultimate Death Knight in terms of like those starter heroes, I think.
Oh yeah, agree. So yeah, nukers, obviously people are gonna need some sort of damage in there, right? But we know that the fight is generally made with these support champions, the champions that can revive, the champions that can heal. Maybe you've got
Yeah.
a couple, epics or something that can place maybe block, what is it? Revive on death for you. They can cleanse you.
Sure.
These things really, make a huge difference. Even a basher coming in, acting as a warlord is something that can make a huge difference. So what are just some of the support champs? I know I saw a Rector draft on your account. What are some of the support champions that you're kind of leaning on?
Yeah. So I feel like champions that can do AoE control are really, really valuable. So, anyone who's got like a stun type mechanic or an AoE sleep. I use Cornelia a lot from the dwarves.
Cornelia
Like she,
is a good one. Yep.
cool thing about Cornelia, she actually gives like the AoE sleep 100% when it's booked, but also when that sleep wears off, it replaces it with a fear, or it's got like a 70% chance to replace it with a fear. So you're almost getting like double control, which is just so clutch when you're thinking about, stalling out a team long enough to get your damage away. So I'm finding her with her speed lead as well. She's also got healing mechanic. Yeah, she's coming in like really good. She doesn't do any damage at all. Like if she's ending up one-on-one with someone, she's doing nothing. But for that, in terms of just kind of giving your team a chance to win, I think she does a really good job. Someone who a lot of people might have as well, actually, is that Hoskarul from the Barbarians.
Yep.
AoE stun, 75% chance to land it. He's a defensive champion as well, so he's hard to kill, and also got turn meter stuff going on. Like he is annoying. Like I don't have him on the free to play, but I've faced him. He's so annoying to face. Once he gets a turn away, he's got increased defense. He's got stuns. He's just very, very solid to try and kind of down an enemy team.
Mm-hmm.
And then you mentioned like people like Rector Draft, Priest. I think if you've got, I think she's in the Banner Lords, Asala. Those champions that have either got passive healing or decent revives, stuff like that. It's very difficult when you're a newer account to kill enemies twice.
Yep.
And, especially when they start to get those big buffs up and stuff like that, it becomes extremely difficult in live arena to deal with these style of champions. If they're built in solid gear, solid, and by solid gear, I mean stuff like bolster sets, which most of us probably have got at least one decent set of, even as a free to play. You know what? Even someone like Reliquary Tender in a bolster set, or the champion Demasa from the kind of referral stuff. These type of champions in bolster set or stone skin sets are extremely powerful when you're talking early level live arena.
Oh,
people just can't kill your team twice.
Yeah, because once in the early game, like gear is really gonna make the difference. So a lot of people don't have 300 speed champions and things like that. Most people are hovering around 200, on the higher end, possibly 220, 230 or so, in the first few months. You don't have a ton of decent rolls on your gear yet. So, once your nuker goes a couple times, they're going to be waiting. They're going to be waiting to get those nukes back. And if they're just healing up on you, it's like, you might as well have started the match over, because...
You'd be surprised by how many all legendary teams I face on the free to play that I just beat. Like all legendaries, and on the face of it, champion per champion, I should absolutely get KO'd, but I win because my champions are generally just built well. Speed where I need the speed, damage where I need the damage, and the support champions are in a set that makes sense to support the team, or they're a champion that generally supports the team. Someone like Seeker supports the team. Someone like, in arena anyway, someone like Sandlash supports the team. Champions like Skytuck Shaman, a really, really good kit to be a support type champion in that bolster set, because she's gonna basically get everyone back to a level where they're incredibly difficult to kill. And these are the overlooked champions that actually win the match.
Yeah. I agree. I think the support is where you're going to see the most difference, because, people are investing in these support champions more than they are the nukers. Like in the first few weeks, you're going to probably invest the most in your starter champion, unless you just pull something that is, ridiculously more worth investing in. But if it's a legendary, it's going to be a lot less that, you're not going to invest as much in the legendary, just because you're not going to get the books, unless you're going to spend money. You're not getting the books. So, you're going to invest in that rare nuker. But as far as support goes, you could use a ton of support champions without books and just build them well, and they can come in and really, really support you. Especially, you mentioned a Doom Priest who has, heals built in, right, to the passive. Seal the Drakes, who
Yeah,
has heals built into the passive. These are things that you don't necessarily need to book a champion to do. They're gonna come in
this
and,
is
and,
it.
and heal you, and you'll be fine. You'll be great. So I think that's something worth mentioning for sure, and something that people should be taking advantage of.
And there'll be other champions on people's accounts that probably live in the vault, yeah, because they don't really get a lot of airtime. But even someone like a Faceless
Hmm.
or a Whisper, someone that could just one shot anybody on the board in live arena, I think they're more valuable than they are in normal arena.
Yep.
Because if you take out the big support, or you just consistently are taking down that nuker so quick, Faceless might be one of the most valuable champions that you could build out.
Oh yeah.
He will one shot anyone on the board, and if you're one shotting the only person that's going to do damage to you that's left, then how do they beat you?
Yep. Or if you block revive them.
Yeah.
A rare. There's a farmable rare that has block revive, right? So this guy Conqueror, you could get him from the
Yes.
campaign. He
True.
he has a block revive, right? And dude, the multiplier on this is pretty high. It's pretty good on this skill. So even if you invest in him, and dude, look at his base attack. His base attack is higher than all of these starter rares, right? He's Spirit Affinity, so he can go up against Force champions, whereas your starter could have some weak hits. So another champion that you bring this guy in, you get a block revive on their nuker, and now you just gotta slowly win the fight.
Yeah.
At
I
that
have
point you
seen,
win.
I'm trying to think who it was who did this series of like rares against Plat. I can't think who it was, but um, somebody kept bringing in Painsmith.
Oh yeah, Painsmith
Um,
has a block. He has a block revive as well.
and he hits hard. Like he really, really just smacks with his block revive skill. So champions like this for live arena, we mentioned on my channel Phoenix. Phoenix is another one who's got a block revive on his A1 as an epic,
Hmm.
and it is, I think it's the hardest single target A1 in the game. Like and it block revives. It's such a crazy good skill. I'm seeing Saf, who works with us at HH Gaming from the HH Gaming channel. He uses Phoenix a lot in his kind of like high end arena play. He
Yeah.
just brings Phoenix in. He's just one shot in somebody time and time again, and yeah, it's very difficult to deal with because once they're dead, they're dead. Unless they've drafted Lydia in, there's no way of them coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And if you bring this guy in with ally attack or even a counter attack, right? Say you bring him in with, I don't know, at the earliest
like a
level,
Skull Crusher or something. I mean,
Skull
possibly.
Crusher, even Jizzo. If you bring this guy in with
Yeah,
Jizzo, Jizzo's placing Jizzo's
true.
placing counterattack up. You get counterattack on this guy, and he's just, going right back at you with this A1. He's gonna block revive your whole team. So some comps you could, potentially really use to your advantage in the early game is, try to block revive someone on the enemy team, and now you've pretty much banned two of their champions, and
Yeah,
it's such a people aren't
I,
aware of this.
I think as well, like some of the champions you just get as login rewards, along the way. People assume because you've got them as a freebie, they're not very good.
Yep.
If you talk about champions like High Cartoon, just really good speed champion, decent amount of stuff going on in her kit, speed lead as well,
Mm-hmm.
relatively decent flex type of pick. Champions like Dark Elhain, really high
Oh
damage,
yeah. Oh yeah.
and decent, well worth building out. Um, Champions like Yakal, who you can eventually, she's undead.
Oh, I,
Yeah, I did
I was like,
that.
wait, dark,
Yeah,
dark elves, dark. I just had a brain fart, huge brain fart.
do it plenty of the time, man. But yeah, champion like Yakal that you could go and get the fragments for from Clan Shop. Like there's a bunch of different options that, I mean, Yakal especially, it's a longer
He,
term investment,
he's
but
so strong there, man.
I think he's even stronger in this game mode because he's a bit of a flex pick.
Yep.
He can be your damage as well as your AoE control. Um, yeah, I think since his buff, your Carl's actually so underrated. Such a good legendary now.
I got destroyed by your car yesterday, and I felt so bad about it. I felt so bad because I was like, oh man, I have a guy who he's been telling me I need to use your car for Fire Night specifically. And
Yeah,
he was telling me I need to use it to counter the duo as well. And we had a very long conversation about it. So I don't know. I haven't tested it as much, but I know that your car absolutely destroyed me yesterday. So I need to build up a your car. I primarily use them in Doom Tower actually now, but
do you? Yeah, I actually do use them in Fire Night at the moment.
really.
In But I'm not farm. I'm farming like Fire Night Hard 6.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to push it above that, and like freeze doesn't really do anything. It's just not good enough. But I am using him. I built him out for a video, and I was like, actually, he's better than I thought he was going to be. Whilst I was doing the video, it was like I was getting a bit hyped in the video. It's like, actually, this dude is good. Like, he's really strong.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I actually just booked mine. So I've the game keeps giving me your calls. I've got 3 of them.
okay,
So
nice.
the intention was to actually build your call for Fire Night. So I've leveled up 2 of them. I was even considering leveling up a 3rd one because I'm like, all right, let me bring in 3 of your calls. We can control the waves, get through the waves, and once we get to the boss, we'll try to freeze the boss to death and see how much,
Yeah,
turn meter we actually do. So at some point I will be, trying to do that. But right now he's
nice.
just an immortal. I use him for the void attack room. He does fine, just keeps healing, and we get through it on full auto. And I don't even think about it. I just put it on auto. But definitely a strong champion to use, and accessible at that. Obviously, it's gonna take you a few months to get him from the clan shop, but a great option, a great option
Yeah,
for sure.
for sure, man. So
Um,
yeah, I think there's more options than people think, and I also think the fights now that it's starting to like bed in, and people are starting to find at least at the beginnings of their level. You've pushed up bronze 4. I'm just below bronze 4. A lot of the people that really love arena push right up. Yeah, they've gone, and you're
mhm.
kind of now left with other people that perhaps don't love it as much or have not really tried it yet. And I'm finding on the free to play, I'm already bronze 2, and I've got over a 50% win rate, which
Nice.
for an account which I don't even have a legendary other than Ronda. Um, it's definitely not champions that are winning me the fights. It's just hearing and sensible picks.
Yeah. So yeah, gear might be the deciding factor for a lot of people in the early game. And we haven't talked, we've touched on gearing here and there, but just to put a bit more emphasis on it, like yeah, gearing. Think about, and we did mention this on your channel though. Gearing. Think about how other people's gear is gonna be at the level that they are. Like look at that player level. Obviously, it's not a direct indication to what's on the account, but it does give you a roundabout idea of what they've been doing. Because if they're a higher level, that means they've been farming a ton, right? They've been getting a lot of
Yeah,
XP, so they can, their player level is higher. But think about these things, guys, because gear is gonna make a huge difference for you. Think about how your champions are geared at your player level, and how your opponent's champions could potentially be geared as well, right? So.
yeah. I will say, like bolster set. I mean, it's good at any level, but at a lower level, if I go into a fight and I see everybody in bolster gear, or look, everyone's got that bolster gear buff,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm just like, I instantly think I probably can't win this fight because you can't get rid of it. You can't strip it off, which means you've got to hit through it, basically wasting like your first round of strong attacks.
Yep.
Yeah, just to hit through a shield. Because if you haven't got bolster set on, it's like basically you're 50% weaker than them.
Mm-hmm.
That's your starting point. You're straight just 50% weaker.
Yep. Yep.
And yeah, it's definitely like it's won me more fights than it would have lost me, having someone in a bolster set.
Definitely, which is why, Shield Breaker is such a strong mastery to take for nukers because, it's not going to increase the amount of damage that you do to the champion, but it is going to help you to kind of knock that shield down some. So, You know, a lot of people are more enticed by, you know, taking Heart of Glory or, you know, Grim Resolve, but Shieldbreaker is almost like I can't not take it on my nukers for arena. My arena nukers absolutely have to have Shieldbreaker because, you know, you never know when you're going to go up against a team that has bolster. Obviously in Plat, every team pretty much has bolster. Like you.
Yeah, interestingly, I probably need to look at that myself because I would have had almost like legacy builds where I would have just like gone straight for Heart of Glory on my nuker. Like that was always my go-to. And nowadays with bolster set just being so much more prevalent in fights, actually, yeah, I probably need to make some changes myself.
Yeah.
Like just hearing you say it, and I'm sitting there like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Like my Leo's got Heart of Glory. I'm pretty certain of it.
Yeah. Shieldbreaker is almost necessary. Like I feel like every DPS I have, you know, for arena has Shieldbreaker. You know, Shieldbreaker is almost imperative. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it helps you a ton against, say you don't have, you know, Supreme Elhain, you don't have Georgia, you don't have these champions that are gonna come in and ignore shield, ignore ally protect. Like it's gonna help you a ton against, you know, you could kill champions through Necker's ally protection once you get their health low enough with that shield breaker, because it's gonna do a lot more damage to the shield and then it starts to do, you know, damage to the HP. If I'm saying how it works correctly, but this is, you know, I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
Yeah. For sure, man. Nice.
But yeah, man, definitely great to talk about some accessible options for people and just, you know, comps. Even if, you know, you don't have the champions that we name specifically, you know, you could do your due diligence, look up some other champions that do block revive, look up some ally attack champions, look up some people that do, you know, they have a versatile kit where they can do some single target for you. They can do some AoE for you, like Elhain, right? Everybody has a chance to get a rare nuker like Elhain, right? Or Kale, or, you know, Gaelic. But
yeah, for sure. Yeah, maybe not Gaelic.
Maybe not Gaelic. even Aethel is strong. AoE with a 3-hit A1 is like that's a really strong kit. So take advantage of that, guys. It's going to be beneficial for you for sure. And of course, think about your gear. Think about your gear and think about your opponent's gear as well, because, you know, the nukers aren't going to be plat level nukers. Chances are the support champion has been invested in more. So, Hades, you got anything else you want to add, man, before we hop off?
I guess just firstly, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. The last point I would say is like, just appreciate the way that live arena works. You're not going to get your main force squad. So, you know, make sure that you've got 2 people with a speed lead. Make sure that you've got 2 damage dealers. The amount of times I've fought against a team that only drafts 1, and I'm like, how do you think you're going to beat me? Like, where's your damage? Like, so fundamentals, and I know we talked about that a bit on my channel, but fundamentals of a draft start to come into play here because you're not guaranteed what you want. And you know, that's what I would say, get yourself a 5 that you're always just going to draft initially, so that you know how to flex when 1 doesn't play, and then as you get more confident, you can then start to play around with that. But I think just having a 5 that you know you're going to draft is a good starting point.
Definitely, man. And I guess it's kind of almost second nature for me now to just, you know, 2 nukers, right? So I didn't even think to mention it because I'm like, 2 nukers is mandatory. I didn't even think twice about not having 2 nukers. So definitely a great bit to add there. But you know, thank you for taking time, man, to come on the channel. Always, I really appreciate you taking some time out, man. And, you know, always a huge thank you to you for all that you do for the community. But that's gonna be all for us guys today. I hope that this video helps out some of those people in the early mid game that are, you know, trying to get their feet wet for live arena. But I'm 100% gonna put all of Hell Hades, you know, links down below, guys. Go check him out if you don't know him, which is highly unlikely. But until next time, guys, be good and be well. Thank you for watching.